Hey Marty, how you doing?
Good, Sean, how are you?
Good, thank you. So first I want to talk about yourself. Can you give us a little bit about a background of your history, Marty?
Yeah, so I'm carpentry trained worked in the building industry for 30 odd years and then moved into building inspections with Jim's building inspections.
And how long have you been with Jim's?
About 18 months.
Awesome.
So it's not as long as a few guys who have been doing it for 15 years or more, but it's just the knowledge base is the component, I suppose, from my experience throughout
the 30 plus years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So inspecting properties, residential, your industrial, commercial buildings, what some of the challenges you might encounter?
So there's a couple of obvious challenges. Trying to inspect roof voids, subfloors, and then actual roofs. They're all limited in our access. Crawling under a floor can be very limited as to how much space you've got. You physically can't get to some places. The same in a roof void.
Yep.
And then we have very strict rules about accessing roofs. We're not allowed to climb onto roofs. And then if it was a very safe barriered roof, the barriers and those sorts of things will limit what we can actually see if we were to access a roof.
So is that any type of roof?
Yeah,
any height?
So any sort of roof. We don't climb off a ladder onto a roof. A commercial property might be able to be inspected if it had proper access to the roof and if the whole roof had a barrier so we can't fall off that roof.
Right.
To be able to inspect roofs is limited on whether it's a domestic property or a commercial property.
Yeah, so subfloor, roof voids, roofs. So today we're obviously focusing on the roof component of it. What are the typical things that you would look for when you're inspecting a roof?
So there's obvious things, obvious defects that you have with a roof. From the simplest things of the gutters not being cleared and the water overflows out of the gutters, that can cause secondary damage to the building structure. Water ends up where it's not designed to be. Fascias will rot, veranda beams, all sorts of external walls of the property aren't meant to have water running down them. If you don't clean your gutters, that's the sort of thing that will happen.
Yeah.
The rest of the roof, we're looking for rust. We're looking for damaged tiles and any sort of issue. So often other trades will have been and altered a roof, and so then the roof isn't as good as it was in its original condition, and the customer, the homeowner or the property owner doesn't necessarily know what has happened on a roof. So we're looking to highlight anything that may have been altered as well as defects that are occurring just through wear and tear.
So prior to drones, how would you then look at some of those defects or issues on the roof? How would you go about it, given that you obviously can't get on the roof?
So it is limited. You can get on a roof, but you'd need to get harnessed and have points where you can fix the harnesses so that you're not at risk of falling off that roof.
Yeah.
And that becomes very complicated and expensive as well. So roofs can be inspected, but it's very a complicated process and not straightforward.
Yeah. So obviously we're focused on the drone component of things with you, and can you talk us through a little bit of the benefits of how that would help you as an inspector when inspecting a roof?
Yeah, so obviously the OH&S factor, I don't need to get up a ladder and I'm not putting myself at risk, which I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
So that for the benefit of the customer, we're actually having access to the full surface of a roof. So I can climb a ladder, and from the gutter, there's a certain height that I'm allowed to, and I can't go beyond that.
Yeah.
So I'm not meant to climb an extension ladder. I think it's 3.6 metres.
3.6, yeah. Yep.
And so from that ladder, I'm allowed to inspect the roof, but I can only see a certain distance. And then I can't necessarily put a ladder against the whole perimeter of a commercial building in particular, and with large surface area, I'm going to miss a lot.
Yeah.
I won't be able to inspect box gutters, which are common problems, and with a drone can cover the full surface area of the roof and zoom in on any areas. In particular, if I highlight to the drone pilot that there's something in particular we want to pay close attention to, they can spend more time on that area.
And I guess you're getting better perspective from a bird's eye view as opposed to standing on a ladder taking a picture with your phone or your iPad, which then when you go back and you're trying to look at that, it's trying to work out where you were in relation to the roof, right? So
yeah, exactly. So or when drone images are taken, we can, it's easier for us to orientate each defect, and we can pinpoint that and point it out to the property owner, so that if maintenance is required, they'll be more able to find the point of the defect, particularly in a large commercial property where there could be an enormous roof space or roof area.
So that's a great topic. So commercial property, obviously much higher, so you're probably talking 8+ meters. So your cherry pickers are probably going to be much more expensive because you've got to get up to probably a good 15 meters capability. Are there similar sort of defects again that you're looking at as compared to residential?
There'll be similar defects. There wouldn't usually be a tile roof on a commercial property. It's predominantly flat tin roofs. The difference perhaps is there'll be more box gutters, and box gutters notoriously cause problems if they're not maintained properly or built properly in the first place. So they create flooding events commonly. And that's less of a big deal if it's over a warehouse, depending on what the stock is, of course. So you don't want, most people who are renting warehouses or tenants in a warehouse don't want any sort of water entering their warehouse, because no matter what it is, could be electrical equipment, could be foodstuffs, could be all sorts of things that
inventory
you just don't want getting wet.
So one of the key capabilities of the Mavic 3 Enterprise is the ability for thermal function. How would that help you as an inspector, having that ability for thermal?
So the obvious thing is that it will potentially highlight where areas of moisture are contained, or so if there's any moisture being held in a particular area, then there's a higher risk of that entering the building. Sometimes water will pool on a roof sheet, and you may not see it in an image, but it may show up differently on the thermal image. Yeah,
I mean, we obviously know we're not obviously using thermal devices on the ground and internal structures as well, but I think having that ability, we might do that 2 or 3 times, whether it's pre-rain, post-rain, might give you some additional information, isn't it, to do it.
It might also show up insulation limitations. So if you've got heat or cool air exiting a building, it could potentially show that up. And so that could be just the efficiency of sealing some gaps, which will bring the power bills down for the tenant or the property owner.
No, I think, well, thank you very much for your time. I think we're really excited that we've been working with you guys now for a good couple of years. And I think together the more we have understood with what your requirements are and obviously your safety concerns, I think having the likes of this type of drone in the Mavic 3 Enterprise, I think is going to be very beneficial for you guys. I think we're excited to kind of see what the next steps are together as well. So,
sounds good.
Yeah. Thanks, Marty.
Cheers, John.
So where to find us? Call 131 546 or go to jimsbuildinginspections.com.au.